And one that today, I mean, if you can find that in box, like, wow, fetches a hefty price. We'll talk about all of that later, but man, what a special series.
Dude, there
So
are
let's talk.
0 of the dragons available in new condition on Bricklink. One of them sold in new condition in June for $250 for the dragon
Oof.
alone. There's a bunch
That's
of used
crazy.
ones, and by a bunch, I mean 24.
This is definitely a case too of, you start to see the scarcity of one of these old themes where at the time, I don't think people really thought of it as like a collector's theme. And so unless somebody was like an AFOL in the 90s and bought a bunch of these just to like hoard, right? Like the chances of you finding something unopened these days is probably extremely small.
Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of 2 adult collectors. We're your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we are discussing Lego Adventurers, the long anticipated, often requested theme. But before we do that, West, I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
What did you build this week?
Oh, man. The ever important question. No, Grinch, I've been on kind of a hiatus for purchasing and trying to build new stuff. I just have some really great, like, big stuff to build at some point. But as you're familiar with, and as the listeners at this point are probably well familiar with, just moving around has been a lot. So I've been kind of unpacking some of the stuff that I moved. So today I reassembled the Lego Technic bush plane, which was actually a really fun Technic build that I put together earlier this year, which was really, really neat, actually. And I'm going to probably put together a few of my botanicals, the 4 gentlemen, for, the end of the week, this upcoming week. But the thing that I actually really started working on, and it's something that you've been doing too, is actually digital designing. And so I've been playing with some mock builds, specifically of the Grimald place. But I've been trying to sort of upscale it into a more modular style of building. And this was something I was kind of working on before I moved 2 moves ago when I had it physically in front of me. But I just never could really settle on a scale or a size that I really liked. I was always trying to fit it on a 40 or a 36 by 36 or 32 by 32 base plate. And the compromise that I came to was, rather than trying to do that, why not just make each one a 16 by 32 unit? And then you can put the 3 units together, creating, the facade of the 2 dark orange buildings with the gray building in between, like the set. But upscaling it into like a modular style, meeting the modular criteria, was actually a lot harder than I anticipated. And I really liked the technique that they used for creating the layered front on the first floor or on the ground floor of the buildings, with the kind of stone with the horizontal marks on it going across. They're using headlight bricks and tiles pieces put into the headlight bricks to create that, like, just that nice, like, horizontal line that goes across the front of the building. But that's actually really difficult to build into and incorporate into like a larger modular, because that front is basically just out of facade. So it's been a lot of fun kind of scaling that up. I've found some of the harder things are like incorporating the transitional areas in between each level or each floor of the modular building, right? Because typically you'll see like a level, there's like a layer of tiles, and that sort of is the top of that floor, and then the kind of standard is 1 by however long or wide kind of layer, and then they build the floor above that, and then once that's established, then the kind of the normal building takes place. So getting kind of a consistent design setup so that each floor above the first floor was the same height was challenging, and matching all of that up to the front and trying to make sure that it doesn't break up key elements of the front was kind of difficult. And so definitely some design compromises and some changes that needed to be made. But at the end of the day, I was really happy, or I am really happy with where that looks. And so what I'm working on now is actually just kind of filling in the sides of the buildings with just like 1x6s on all sides and no details yet or anything. And, just completely covered floors so that I can at least post a picture of it to sort of share with the larger community online and just kind of get you know, a bit of feedback for like where things are at. And then, slowly start to incorporate things like staircases and open floor plans and stuff into the buildings. So anyways, it's a lot of fun. It's been really interesting to kind of build in this capacity, and I know you've been doing a lot of digital designing yourself. So it's got its own challenges, but it's also a great way to build when you don't have something in front of you. So
Yeah, I have been using a lot of Stud.io, as you know and said. Do you kind of commonly, the biggest, there's so many advantages to it, right? Because you have every piece, you have any color, but you also have every piece and any color. So sometimes just being like, I have this piece to work with, like I gotta do this, can be helpful. But also there's other times where you're not physically touching the bricks. So kind of maneuvering things, you're building within like a coded physics, right? It's not real life. So it's not as simple as just like, yeah, that doesn't fit there. Sometimes the way that like I was working with clips earlier today and I like clipped something on and I'm like, that doesn't, like, that's not connected. But the system thought it was, and it wasn't
Yep.
giving me like a connection error. And so I've done it before where I get my build all done and I'm building it in real life and I'm just like, well, whoops, that doesn't work. or you build something, you get so far along with it and you're like control Z, control Z, control Z, go back, undo. You undo it and then you kind of keep building, but you left a piece in a spot where it was connected with another piece, and now that you deleted that other piece, it's just sitting there floating essentially.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's stuff under it, so you're like, okay, cool, that piece is that's on there, and then you get that happened with me in Mount Doom, where I got to the point where I was building it and I was like, oh, this piece can't attach to any, it's not attached, this entire section.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And one of the things that I, struggle with using Stud.io is just the connections, are challenging. And so in this case, I started with the facade of the building first, just the front of it, just to sort of map that out. And once I got that done, I started incorporating like all the floors. And so then I had to take each floor off and move it to the side. And then when I had to, put them back on top of each other, getting it all aligned was just like way too difficult and way too time consuming. And it's a shame there isn't like a way, and maybe there is. So this might be, testing the limits of my knowledge of Stud.io. But if you could point to like one stud and like point to the anti-stud and be like, connect it here to here, like, and then the computer just does
there
it.
is.
Oh, see, I figured there would be, but
it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss. It doesn't work as good as you'd want it to. But it is called, there's a tool up there on the toolbar. It's next to like the hide and the collision. It's called Connect.
Oh,
and
okay.
You can actually, each brick is assigned a connection point. So you can be like, I want this one here. And then it'll like you point and then you click and then you click and it'll like shoot it over there. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it kind of, sometimes it kind of doesn't, but
yeah, I'll have to play around with that. I think the other thing too that I need to work more with is like the submodels. So for the listener and viewer who are not familiar with Stud.io, one of the neat features about it is you can build a submodel within your system. And basically, it sounds exactly like what it is you highlight whatever it is that you're working on, and you can say, hey, create a submodel, and then you can enter into the submodel and manipulate it. And then once that's done, you exit, and now it's just kind of, in the grand scheme of things, seen as like one singular piece. And so if someone's working on something like a modular building, my recommendation, and I haven't done this because I kind of started it working it the hard way and have continued working it the hard way, is to make each floor its own submodel, right? That way you can work on
Mm-hmm.
each one and then zoom back out. And now you're only connecting 4 pieces essentially, instead of connecting all of them. But like I said, I'm definitely working harder, not smarter, on my building this week. So, but you live and you
Dude,
learn. So,
I use submodels all the time, especially with like wall sections or like modular floors is an example. And then if you're ever making instructions, it's really nice too,
yeah,
because then it's a separate. So
because then it
everybody's actually
effectively,
experienced submodels because you do them all the time when you're building official Lego sets. For
right.
example, if you've built, I don't know, Bowser, you put together just his arm and then you click his arm onto the main model. That arm sub assembly, when you take the main thing you're building, you put it over to the side and you start working on something else, that's a sub model. And then you
Yeah.
finish that and you throw it onto the body, and now it's a part of the larger thing. Or floors on a modular, for example. You've moved the base plate and everything aside and you start working on a brand new floor, that is considered a sub model because it
I just
attaches
learned
as a unit
about the
to the main thing.
about the paint tool too. That was really helpful. So, specifically with the Grimald Place, right? Like, you can build one building and then copy it twice and then just repaint one of them, and you've effectively created your setup. But I was going through,
You can
and
also copy and mirror. So
oh,
it
that's
flips
neat.
everything over on the opposite
Yeah,
side. Yeah. Yeah. Wes, why
man.
don't we save this for an episode on studio?
We can keep that discussion going. So, anyways, Grinch, what did you
I
build other than, did you do any more studio yourself?
I did. I've been working on my Lord of the Rings mock. I will keep it at that. I've got a whole new scale that I'm working on compared to my dioramas. I am going to do a few more dioramas, but I'm working on a new scale, a new setup. So I'm excited. I'm to the point with the mock where I'm just kind of decorating it now, or almost. I got kind of stuck today on making it's a Monhen from the first movie, The Fellowship of the Ring, like where that last battle is. And there's like that kind of, it's like a watchtower in the universe of Middle Earth, and there's these little gargoyle, I guess they're like chimera, you can't really tell because don't have a head, but they're like little lion bodies with wings. Like that's a chimera, right?
Yeah,
and they're
kinda.
statues, and it was really hard to build, and I finally, like 30 minutes before recording, I got it. I got it. So I'm excited to keep working on that tomorrow. So, but you know
Yeah.
what else is exciting, West?
Ooh, brick mail.
The news. Why don't you take us over to the news?
Exciting Lego news.
All right, Grinch. So this week for exciting Lego news, we got the reveal of Gizmo, Captain Jack Sparrow's pirate ship. We also are being told that there's a Star Wars live stream event on September 4th. The Lego Pick a Brick standard service was paused. Lego, there's some rumors floating around about a Captain Fox fix, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then, we've been talking about this period 2 for the Lego Ideas, voting period, and how many sets there are. And so as of today of recording, this is August 30th, so we're about the end of this review period at the moment. we are looking close to 144 sets. So that's a few days old. That was on the 27th, I believe, or 28th. So two days prior to when we are recording the episode. But we're right around the end of this review period right now, and there's 144 sets. So very exciting. Grinch, what stands out to you for news this week?
I am stoked for the Black Pearl.
Don't you
I'm
mean
sorry.
Captain Jack Sparrow's
Captain
pirate
Jack
ship?
Sparrow's pirate ship? Yes, I think it looks awesome. The price is the price. There's nothing we can do about it, guys. I'm sorry, it's not good. There's also nothing else that we can really say that hasn't been said. I'm still gonna get it. There was the gift with purchase also revealed, which is Jack Sparrow's compass. We talked a lot about gift with purchases last week. I think this kind of fits the mold of like one that adds to a set, but isn't like, I don't know. I wouldn't really go out of my way to buy this on its own. So it's just kind of there. That's
Neat.
fine. Yeah, I'm gonna get it day one so I can get it with the gift with purchase, but I was gonna get this set day one either way. And man, it looks awesome.
Yeah. I've seen some really great reviews of it so far. Some really great part usage, some really cool play features. Two things that stand out to me are the cannon mechanism. So for the viewers and listeners who haven't seen the review, friend of the channel, I don't know if I can call him friend of the channel. We certainly appreciate him. I'm not sure how much he's aware of the channel, but Tiago Catarino's review of it was really nice, where he shows some of the movement that goes on. Specifically, you can twist a gear at the back of the ship and the cannons pop out of the sides, and it does like a left and a right side. So that's just a really cool feature. And then if you actually turn the wheel up top, the rudder on the back of the ship turns as well, which is really cool. And then it looks like there's just some really neat building techniques with the way like the back of the ship is sloped and kind of working on different angles. And so, yeah, I mean, that one looks just fantastic. Grinch, you mentioned the price. Like, man, whoa.
Do you think
It's
some
a
of this
lot.
is because obviously, you know, if you follow rumors, the original price was $330 and then it was adjusted to $380 after this tariff nonsense. So there's that. But also, do you think some of it is to like from $330, it still feels on the more expensive side? So like, is this a product of Lego buying Bricklink and being like, you know, we sold so many black pearls that were retired at $800 a pop. Like, we know people will spend $330 on this thing. Like, that's pretty reasonable. Like, we can probably stretch this thing a little bit further than I mean, is some of this pricing stuff just like they know what people are willing to pay for this stuff, retired, and how much volume they push retired now that they own Bricklink? Or do I need to take off my tinfoil hat?
Yeah, there certainly could be, right? Like, it's hard to demonstrate causation here. Certainly correlation exists, right, with the timing. That data theoretically, though, would have always been available to Lego, who could have always just been monitoring Bricklink as like a third-party user. So, sure, right? Like, we could throw it that way. I think 320 sounds, because I think there's 2,800 pieces in the set. So, I mean, it should be going around $280, $300. So 320 itself doesn't sound
330. Not that that's
okay, even
different, but
yeah, even that doesn't sound overly aggressive, right? What does though is 380, and now we're talking, I mean, if you're going by the golden 10 cents price per part rule, right? Like, there should be 1,000 extra pieces in that set based off of that rule. Now, I know not everything's created equally. This one's got a lot of sales in it. Each of those sales are unique to this set, right? So they're not reusing sales. Maybe the molds or the cutouts are, but there's lots of holes in these sales. So like, each sale has to be, specifically die cut for, the specific sale that it is, right? Like, so there's a lot there. I'm sure those are a little pricier to put together, especially like with those new cuts that they have to put into them and stuff. So I could see where, the 280 price could jump to 330 pretty quickly. And then yeah, it is a one-off set where we haven't got any Pirates of the Caribbean stuff in a long time. They know it was a popular IP. They know it's going to be a popular set, right? Like, that's just demand inflation right there. So like, yeah, 330 makes a lot of sense. 380 is a lot. So
if we can look at just the Lego set and not the price, which is technically impossible if you want to get it, totally understand that. I'm not saying that. But if you can just enjoy this set for a moment,
yeah,
the shaping on the back of
chef's
it,
kiss.
right? The
10 out of 10.
captain's quarter, the whole, just it feels like this thing is bowed and like floating in the water when I look at it, and it's not. It's Lego, and just
Yeah.
oh man.
No, I think it looks great. Tiago mentioned this in his review too, and I think this is a really fair point. If there's any criticism to be made about this set, it's all black, which I know is technically screen accurate, but it just, when everything's monochrome like that, like, it can look really cool, and it does, but it does sort of also feel like some of the detail of the boat is lost. So
That's fair. It's I mean, it's accurate, so I'll give them that. It's accurate to the source material.
yeah. Grinch, I wanted to talk about, we got Gizmo. That's neat. And, I don't know. I was never much of a Gremlins fan. I don't know about you. I think it's even
Yeah, I'm
less
not really a gremlin.
relevant for your, age group than it was even for mine. We have a Star Wars live stream. I'm curious what that could be about, So very excited to see that one for real. So there's some interesting things floating around. Might not be a moon.
There are. Speaking of Star Wars, I don't have a source for this. However, it's been heavily suggested and shared that you can actually, go into Lego and get a replacement for Captain Fox for the torso. So if anybody has a Coruscant gunship and got Captain Fox and had a really pink torso, I should say, instead of the white over the red or the red over the white printing, they fixed it or made it better at least, so you can actually contact Lego customer support, or people have been. Again, this was not officially announced by Lego. I haven't seen an official news source cover it. It's just out there of people writing into Lego and getting a fix. So it's been kind of circulating social media this past week.
Yeah. I would love to see if any of our listeners or viewers have done this, a side-by-side comparison of the two. Because as you mentioned, it was I think it's a red torso with white printing on it that does not, the opacity of that printing just is not quite there. So it ends up looking pink when it should be, kind of a flat white. So I know a lot of people were disappointed. It was kind of a low point for this set. And on top of the fact that like the gunship was a little smaller than kind of what people were expecting. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Lego's doing this. It's a shame they just can't do it the first time, but
Yeah,
we'll
and I
get there
think if you
eventually.
want to see a comparison, I think Solid Brick Studios has a good one out there.
Okay. Now I'll have to take a look at that.
So
yeah, and the last thing, Grinch, I just wanted to mention was that Lego Pick a Brick, the standard service has been paused. We don't entirely know kind of what's going on there. We know that you can still get sort of those, I forget the official verbiage or terminology for it, but the pieces that kind of are the most sought after pieces can
The
still be
standard, they call it a standard piece.
So the standard ones are paused, but the regular ones are not. So the kind of the special pieces are not. So if someone's still trying to get pieces from Lego Pick a Brick, you still can. It's just you won't necessarily be able to get the standard stuff. So, and that might be
Anything
part of
that's
the
not shipped from the United States.
Yep. That might be something we talk about kind of in an end of the year wrap up as we kind of talk about the 2025 Lego year in review. So, but Grinch, anything more about the news this week?
I will say, like I'm not really a Gremlins fan, but the Gizmo does look really good as far as the buildable characters go. I don't know if it's just because we're used to getting these in Star Wars, but there's always something with the eyes, and for me it just works here. It works well. Typically that's kind of a sore spot, but they've done a good job, and I'm sure people who like Gremlins will enjoy this. I would be, if I were a Gremlin fan, I would be happy with this.
Yeah. It's giving Furby a little bit too.
Well, I think Furby was giving a Gremlin vibe.
Yeah, I think that's probably true too. So, but that's where my mind goes when I see the Gizmo, not Gremlins, but Furbies, which may they never come back to haunt us ever again.
They're called Labubu. We're living that again right now. History's repeating itself.
I just saw the first one the other day, or my first one the other day. So,
dude, I was at a mall and there was like a vending machine there, and people were lined up for it.
Oh my gosh.
Ay, Dio mio. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go over to this week's topic.
Today's topic.
All right, Wes. So this week we are talking all about Indiana Jones. I'm sorry. I mean Adventurers. This was a original Lego license theme that was introduced way back in January of 1998, and it ran through July of 2003. There are 4 sub-themes here. There was the Egyptian sub-theme, which was 1998 and 1999. There was the Amazon sub-theme, which I believe was the smallest. It was kind of short-lived, and honestly, it's the one I always forget about, because there was also the Dino sub-theme, which feels kind of Amazon-y, and that was in 2000. And then there was a 3-year time gap, and we got Orient Expedition, which was the last time we got an Adventurers set. We've seen plenty of references to this beloved Lego theme since then. However, that was the last time we got any of these sets, and they ventured down to India, China, and Mount Everest. And after that, we got a few more original themes, and then we kind of are stuck with these IP intellectual property based themes. But West, something notable with this was, up until this point in Lego's history, and we talked a little bit about it with like Rock Raiders, Throwbots, etc. We had named characters, and typically, if you think of classic space, for example, if you think of classic castle pirates, you didn't have named characters, right? Think of Western, which came out shortly before this. You had a lot of repeated characters, a lot of developed characters, but they didn't necessarily have a name. So why don't you run us through, and before you do that, I just wanted to also note, it's Dino Attack and Dino 2010. We saw a little bit of a differentiation here between Europe and the US market. A few of the characters,
Slicers, right?
Oh yeah, there you go. Also Throwbots and Slicers had different names. A couple of the characters had different names. So we'll get to those. But the US was more kind of comic book action oriented, and then the European was more old world, your aristocratic type of names. And what's funny is when I was going through this list, I had only ever known the European names. In fact, I had to like triple check my source on this because I had always kind of known them as that. But sure enough, there was a few US catalogs where they were named somebody else. And it's funny, I remember some of those names, but I don't identify the characters as those names. But I'm like, oh yeah, no, Sam Sinister. Got it. Yeah, totally. But why don't you run us through the heroes?
All right. Well, let's kind of take a look at some of these characters. The first thing that really stands out for me too, and I didn't know this, was that Johnny Thunder was Australian. So there we go.
The accent didn't give it away.
You know, just never really quite
I'm
got
just
that
kidding.
from his character. Yeah. So
Good
let's
night,
talk.
mate.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about some heroes, right? Because actually, Johnny Thunder, as we knew him, was also known as either Sam Grant or Joe Freeman, depending on where you were. So not always Johnny Thunder, but very much giving off some Indiana Jones vibes, at least visually speaking. Again, not entirely clear he's Australian. I guess maybe the hat was the thing that gave that away. So
Yeah,
kind of
and like the
Australian.
torso kind of like advent. I mean, and just the entire like going to ancient ruins and getting artifacts
Yeah, Australians are well
vibe.
known for loving to go to ancient ruins and finding
Yeah,
artifacts. So
that's
you're
exactly
right. I
right.
should have just picked up on the context clues. But so some heroes of this journey, right? We had Johnny Thunder. He's your classic pulp style adventurer and main hero. Again, in the United States, I think we really sort of associated him with this is the Lego version of Indiana Jones, right? This is just as Lego starting to explore IP ranges, like you mentioned. So we got Star Wars, but we did not get official Lego Indiana Jones for quite a few years later. And so this was kind of our first take on it, right? He's this Australian explorer with a fedora, fearless spirit, and he's always chasing treasure and mystery. But he also kind of has this strong sense of justice, or at least allegedly, right? There are
What
a
a man!
series of
What a
radio
man!
plays and cartoons that kind of go over like his adventures. So I don't know if we ever really got exposed to that too much, other than like what we saw in the Legoland magazines that came out, and some of
Uh-huh.
the just what you saw and sort of depicted in the art of the theme, so to speak. But some of his companions were Dr. Charles Kilroy. He's an eccentric, brilliant scientist and explorer, a big fan of ancient history and archaeology, and some kind of crazy inventions. And he's kind of like the brainiac of the team. Then you have Pippin Reed,
The
aka
nerd.
or Gale Storm in U.S. catalogs, is kind of rounds out the team as like a journalist and photographer, documenting their adventures. She's brave, resourceful, and often the one spotting hidden dangers, and kind of balances out the team dynamic. And then last but not least, the team has a trusty pilot named Harry Kane, who is not only capable of flying hot air balloons, but also a variety of the different airplanes featured in the series. And he helps those teams reach remote and exotic locations.
All right, and for the villains, and this is the one I think I was kind of alluding to, where it was Lord Sam Sinister, also known as Baron von Baron in Europe. I I've always associated him with Baron von Baron. Maybe it's I forgot part of my childhood and just relearned him later on as a Lego fan after my dark ages. I don't know, but he's the main villain here. Super identifiable. He's got his classic top hat, his eye patch, and his mustache. I mean, just your classic, like, literature Western villain over here. Had always after the treasure, trying to get the different artifacts and beat Johnny Thunder to them. He was his arch nemesis. And then we had Sly Boots or Bots, which was the right hand man of Baron's, kind of the comic relief. And then when we got into some of the other sub themes here, we got some additional characters. So West, what's that additional character lineup for the Amazons look like?
In the Amazon, we had Senor Palomar, who's a villain from the jungle or Amazon sub-theme. Greedy opportunist, eager to beat Johnny to the Amazon treasures. We also have Alexia Sinister, Sam Sinister's equally devious sister, who also appeared in Orient Expedition as well. And she, helps Sam scheme against the heroes. And then lastly, Achu, mysterious jungle guardian who protects hidden treasures. Not necessarily evil, but also not necessarily there to help out Johnny and his team as well.
And then in Dino Island, we had the classically named Mike. That's it. It's just Mike.
He was
Jedi
like the
Bob
kid
of the yeah. He's Mike. He was the kind of the younger kid that was helping them with the dinosaurs, and then we had Mr. Cunningham, who was the villain that was funding the dino capture, the engine, if you will, of the expedition. And then who else did we have for Orient Expedition?
Oh man, for Orient Expedition, we had Bablu, a helpful guide in their kind of Indian adventures.
Either way, it's a terrible name.
An ally in China in the Chinese adventures who helps them navigate kind of dangerous territories. And then Maharaja Lalu, kind of a local ruler inside of the Indian sub theme of the Orient Expeditions. And then Emperor Chang Wu, who's kind of the Chinese antagonist, who is also kind of competing with the team to find the treasures for himself.
So, a lot of characters, but I think the main takeaway is just how thought out this theme was, right? Or sub-themes. I mean, there's a lot of stories here. And super recognizable characters, too. I mean, we've seen Baron von Baron be reused and stuff. I mean, we've seen Johnny Thunder. I mean, what was it? The Adventurer minifigure that we got in the CMFs eventually. The Haunted
CMF Series
House.
19.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You got that series right off the top of your head. I love it.
I did my homework.
But there was kind of this like funness to this theme because it was a little bit of a blend of exploration, history, but also fantasy. I mean, it wasn't necessarily meant to be the most realistic, right? There was never an established time period, although it did feel like maybe 1930s-ish based off of, kind of pre-World War II, similar to a very similar IP that exists around the 40s. Star Wars, no, Jaws, no. So it did feel obviously incredibly similar to Indiana Jones, where it felt different was with a little bit more of the fantasy aspect. You had like mummies chasing people and the pharaoh, right? And the Egyptian one. You had dinosaurs, obviously. There was just it was fun. It was a Lego-fied version of Indiana Jones, and I just wonder how much of this stylistic storytelling of evolved into what is now just when you see a Lego game, right? You've got somebody, Star Wars maybe, and instead of pulling out a blaster, they pull out a banana, right? But it's just kind of you chuckle, right? There's this it's a simple humor, and I think some of that kind of started here, right, with the way that they're telling some of these stories.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great, kind of takes, right? Like we saw for the first time just a Lego theme that was fully thought out year over year, with every year that the theme was released and every sub theme kind of a new and distinct adventure with its own visual language, with its own sort of, you could really sort of tell when it was based off of the context of the sets themselves, kind of really pulling from a collective imagination. You were talking about the Egyptian theme, and the thing that came to my mind, obviously Indiana Jones set in the Raiders of the Lost Ark is kind of set in that Mediterranean area. But the thing that actually came to mind was the Mummy movie, and just sort of other elements there, right?
Yeah,
So
totally.
you can see it kind of connecting off of popular culture of the era and sort of feeding on all of that together, so that we have sort of this sort of collective consciousness of like what this series is and what it's trying to do, right? The dino theme came out right as Jurassic Park was really kind of peaking in between the second movie and the third movie, and right well before we got Lego dinosaurs. I think we had the green dinosaur before this, if I'm not mistaken, but we had some other really unique dinosaurs in this series. Sort of the first big foray
This
into
was
like
the intro of the T-Rex.
Okay, so then the
This
first
was
time
it.
we got a
Yeah.
Lego
And
T-Rex.
they had it in the studio theme. I think it was after. In the Steven Spielberg director, not Steven Spielberg, make your own movie with there's a red car.
Right.
It's very obviously The Lost World.
Yeah, so it's just fun to see, all of this stuff kind of coming from a series like Johnny Thunder, right? So yeah, I think this is a really great example of Lego world building kind of at its finest, right? We've talked about sort of limitations of some other themes, like something like Rock Raiders, where in the theme itself, it just didn't quite tell the story that there apparently was, like at no point, if you look at the sets, are you like, man, they're probably explorers from another galaxy who got stuck and then had to go to this planet to mine crystals so that their starship could get back home. Like that is not clear at all in the Rock Raiders theme. They just look like miners, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that backstory isn't apparent. You can look at the Johnny Thunder series sets, the adventure sets, and you could kind of figure it all out and build the details in your own imagination, kind of in between. But you kind of get the gist of the story just by looking at them.
Well, and you mentioned too the Lego dinosaurs, right? We had that other. This was even before we had the other buildable system of dinosaurs. So the very first dinosaurs here. We also got elephants, right? And for the longest time, I believe they just remade these, right? They've remade so many Lego animals recently, but for the longest time, this was the only way you could get an elephant. And that elephant tusk piece and the trunk piece have been used for a while now. I mean, as just as a rib cage, a bone, whatever. A lot of these pieces stuck around. And then there's a Tigura's Roar, which has this I don't know. This thing always reminded me of the costume guys from Roller Coaster Tycoon, from the mascots that you could get. But there's essentially this tiger mini thing. I mean, it looks like something out of Duplo almost. Like you would probably associate it with that if you looked at it.
Yeah.
They also had a similar one with the Yeti, and then the Passage of Junchi, which was the Chinese guardian lion. The I think it's called like a Fu dog or something like that. Pardon my probably terrible American pronunciation on that, but there's the guardian lion. There's just so much here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we were talking about the dragon from the temple, that black dragon with like the gold printing on it,
and so a chrome head with rubies for eyes. dude, it was a black dragon with gold plated printing and a chrome head.
And not to mention the dirigible or blimp, right? That has like that shark's or tiger's mouth on the front of it from the jungle theme. That such an iconic set, so cool. And one that today, I mean, if you can find that in box, wow, fetches a hefty price. We'll talk about all of that later, but man, what a special series.
Dude, there are zero of the dragons available in new condition on Bricklink. One of them sold in new condition in June for $250 for the dragon alone. There's a bunch of used ones, and by a bunch, I mean 24.
This is definitely a case too of, you start to see the scarcity of one of these old themes. where at the
Uh-huh.
time, I don't think people really thought of it as like a collector's theme. And so unless somebody was like an AFOL in the 90s and bought a bunch of these just to like hoard, right? Like the chances of you finding something unopened these days is probably extremely small. So,
Uh-huh.
but like I said, we're going to talk through that in a little bit. So, Grinch, I wanted to talk really quickly about the legacy and the influence too. And we talked about sort of, you know, this being a precursor for the Indiana Jones theme, which would come out in 2008. I don't think necessarily influencing the theme itself, right? Because that theme is based off of the IPs, but you did see a very similar, design language between the two of them, right? So like by the time Indiana Jones did come out, you're like, well, I've already kind of expected this with Johnny Thunder. So very complimentary. Right, but you also see influences from this series in Lego City Jungle, Pharaoh's Quest, Monster Fighters, just to name a
Uh-huh.
few. That one piece that really stands out for me as a really unique piece is the cab piece for cars that had the two side-by-side seating. And it's effectively like the car tray that makes up the basis of like the little car that they drive. It was done in tan for Johnny
Uh-huh.
Thunder, but I most recently got one in light azure blue, I believe, in a hidden side set of all things. And it's just like, man, what a blast from the past seeing this thing again for real. And it just like the vibe that it gives off is hot rod, like a Ford Model A hot rod.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's just such a fun piece. So, I mean, the nostalgia factor for this series is so cool.
And I think it was introduced specifically for, yeah, no, it definitely specifically was for adventures, but there's also, and I don't know if it's still used today or not. I think it retired in like late 2000s, or sorry, early 2000s. There's the grill piece with the headlights for as far as vehicles
Yes.
go.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
looks very similar to the kind of arched window, but it also has
Mhm.
two headlights coming off of it. And that's a kind of that piece takes me back. That's an old vintage piece for sure. So yeah, and we'll get into the sets here in a moment, but it's this weird kind of, this is a theme that makes me happy, nostalgic, and also feel really bad for like kids experiencing Lego right now. Because, I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 when this theme was coming out, and it's super nostalgic for me. But like, this was it. It was this, Rock Raiders, a couple other themes. Think of, if it wasn't this theme, maybe you were born a little bit earlier. Maybe it was Classic Space or some of the Classic Castle. But like, the breadth of Lego sets nowadays. Like, if this is how nostalgic we feel about some of this stuff, like, could you imagine in 20 years, people who grew up like with modern day Lego looking back at like just everything that's out there? It's going to be
You know what
tough.
though, Grinch? I actually think it won't. It will be tough, but for another reason, which is the kids who are going to be, our age looking back at the Lego sets today, right? So yeah, 25 years from now, they're in their mid 30s, early to mid 30s, and are looking back on the 2025 to 2020 Lego sets. What original IPs are they going to look at? Dreams,
Mm-hmm. True.
maybe Hidden
Yeah.
Side, maybe Ninjago, right? But everything else is based off of an IP. And if they didn't grow up with that IP, much like we were talking about with Gizmo for us, like it just doesn't resonate. And so what's so special about this theme is that it's kind of timeless to some extent, because it doesn't matter if you were our age looking back on it, or you're, our age in 25 years looking back on adventures. Like it kind of is what it is. And because there's no IP associated with it, it doesn't necessarily get rooted into like a specific period of time. And like I
that's
said,
very
I
true.
think that kind of makes it timeless. So I think it just again goes back to one of the things that makes this theme so special. And makes it, I really wish Lego would continue kind of, well, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I think this one could be very much reissued in scale for Lego. I think they'd make a lot of people happy, but
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, okay. All right. So let's why don't we go into some of the stats, West?
yeah. So let's just review the stats. You mentioned the years that it was released, 1998 to 2003. Over that time period of 5 years, there were 72 sets. There's the 4 sub themes that you mentioned. Across all of the sets, we got 155 minifigures. For retail, this entire theme would have cost you $1,000, just a little over $1,000 at the time. Now, if you want to buy it as of August 30th, 2025, if you wanted to buy all the sets new, sealed in box, $14,000, closing on $15,000. The net growth for this theme is about 1,300%, and it sees an annual growth of about 6%, 7% a year. Used right now, if you wanted to buy this theme, you're looking at a cool $6,000. So,
Wow. Which
yes.
we've had requests to go through inflation, but since this is multiple years and we're kind of covering all this at once, just so you know, if we just took a blanketed year of 2000 and then to 2025, $1,000 in retail, 2025 would be $2,000. Sorry, $1,000 in the year 2000 would be $2,000 in the year 2025. So the used value has also not only kept up with inflation, but certainly tripled it, right, and surpassed it. I mean, there's love here, right? People are even buying these used because they just want the sets, right?
Yeah,
the new is obviously going to be, these are 25 years old plus in some cases, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get your hands on. They're getting to that classical / vintage era, right, where it's a scarcity and a popularity demand that's driving
factor.
up that price. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that real quick. And a few episodes ago we talked about buying used Lego, right? And you kind of went through a whole example of like the power of your dollar. Well, this is a really great example, right? You could buy the entire series used, and it would still have, you could still
for
buy
a cool $6,000.
Well, fair, right? That's 72 Lego sets, by the way. But $6,000, right? You could buy another theme and a half with the rest of your money. So like, there's a lot here, right? And so just a really good example of how that new in box really sometimes pushes those figures like into the stratosphere. So,
well, I was joking, but that it's a really good call out, West, because like, for example, there is a lot of these sets are not established,
they're not large. Yeah.
There's a Johnny Thunder's Adventurer car, for example, that is just this. I mean, it's like 20 pieces just laying on top of each other, sort of thing. Like it's buying that new in box would feel pretty bad, right?
Yeah,
because it's
you would need to be really nostalgic.
And I'm trying to get the price here, but my computer froze, so that's fun.
Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick. You said the Johnny Thunder.
I've got it right here. Yeah. So if you wanted to buy it used, it's like $10. If you wanted to buy it new, there's none for sale. So good luck.
Oh dear.
So that's definitely one.
Yeah, the Adventurer's car right now. This was done as part of the Egypt theme. I don't know if that's specifically the call out you had, but retailed for $8 right now, going new $75.
Yeah. So
That's
I mean,
70 pieces for $75.
you talk about price per part ratio. It's not no bueno, and it's not a good set
Yeah, I mean
necessarily.
it's just a truck with like some guns strapped to the side of it. So the Island Racer, 50 pieces, one minifigure, retailed for $6, selling for 57.
Yeah, and like what Harry Kane's airplane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, this thing is like a 2x6 plate with the propeller. You got a price on that one?
Yeah. Let's see this. Okay, so you said Harry Kane's airplane. Da, 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 da. Trying to
Oh wow,
find
this one
it.
must have been a weird poly bag because it just says it's value new for $6 and used for $4. So
There you
it
go.
must have been a random. Maybe it was like they did some weird stuff with shell. Maybe it was one of those. Okay, that one's fine. That one by used or new. But it's literally
Value
somebody
right now.
sitting.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
value right now on Brick Economy, $50.
Yeah, so it's like Harry Kane is sitting on a 2x6 plate, and then they have
With
wheels
like a
on it
propeller
and a
strapped to it.
propeller.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't buy that. Don't buy that new.
These are like the micro fighters of the Adventures series. And you're spending
With this
$50 on it.
sad Titanic fail music playing in the background. So, all
Oh
right, we
dear.
started talking about the sets. Let's just get into the sets here. One of the things that I really liked, and I remember our mother actually got me after soccer practice one day, the research glider set, which was a dino adventure set. Again, we'll mark it right here on the episode, and we'll get a picture of this thing uploaded so you can just see this tree and all of its glory if you're watching on YouTube. I mean, it is a slope with a leaf piece and a brick on it for a tree. So it does leave a little bit to be desired, but so much more about this was about the story and the characters and this world that Lego created here. But which one of these sub themes was your favorite?
Well, so I want to back up real quick because I think the
Okay.
research glider was the only adventure set we have.
No, we had a
I don't
couple of
think,
the cars because we had a few Johnny Thunders.
but it's, yeah, maybe. I just don't like, we did not collect a ton of these as kids. And
No,
for
we
better
had
or for worse.
we didn't have any of the Egypt ones, and then I got a
Yeah.
collection later from our friend, and I got a few
Yeah.
sets through that.
Which, like, looking back on it now, I'm like, why did we not collect these? These were awesome. But to answer your questions, like which ones stand out to me or which one, kind of like speaks to me. I mean, I always was very like, I always gravitated towards that shark mouth on the blimp. I always thought that thing was so cool. I don't know what it was about it, right? It just, for me, I think that iconography of like the shark's mouth on things was something I was always very like I said, gravitated towards as a kid, from historically, right? What we saw painted on airplanes and like World War II and stuff. And so to see it on the blimp, I just thought that was like so cool. But you asked me kind of favorite theme. And even then, right? Like, to be honest, I don't think I could point out anything in particular. I think the theme that looking through this that kind of calls to me the most now would probably either be the dino theme or the jungle theme, because I think that has some of the most iconic vehicles in it. But even then, like there's some stuff from the Egypt theme and Orient theme that I think is so cool, including things like the Yeti and like some really awesome inclusions in all of those themes. So yeah, I don't really know if I could pin anything down specifically as like, this is the theme that, is the adventures. So
Well, we kind of talked about it in like the Prince of Persia episode and the Ninjago City episode. And the Ninjas episode, we don't really get this, quote unquote orient, and it should probably be named something else, theme in Lego very often, right? We just don't. And so like I'm looking at like the Scorpion Palace, and you got that, onion bulb shaped dome, and you just don't really see that architecture captured anywhere in Lego. I mean, you got people with head turbans on too. I mean, you don't get that often, right? And
Yeah.
I think the Egypt one though, dude, like the Temple of Anubis, in my opinion, has got everything. It's got your big kind of play scale base plate build. It's got some printed pieces on it, some like hieroglyphic, some did those have a specific name outside of hieroglyphic? Just some like pharaoh mythology, Egyptian god type prints. I'm not sure if there's a specific name for them, but
I wonder if they could be
I've
translated.
seen
That'd be kind of.
I've seen a ton of mocks with those. Like people, the mock I see coming from this scene the most is Egypt.
Yeah.
Right. You constantly see people redoing an Egyptian mock, reusing specifically those pieces. I mean, dude, there's a really cool mummy piece that's essentially like the newer version of the carbonite piece before we had that. Like it's got a Lego minifigure kind of sticking out from it a little bit on
with like the
on a sloped
sarcophagus.
piece. Yeah, I mean, just an awesome piece there. It's printed. They've got a little blimp. I mean, in my mind, the Temple of Anubis has kind of everything you love about this theme. If I could get one set, I think it'd be that or the Scorpion Palace.
Yeah, and it's also very much like one of the best examples of base plates that we've ever gotten, right? Like this theme had some killer base plates in it. Some of the Egyptian ones did too, but one of the ones that really speaks to me is the Dragon Fortress base plate. That just is kind of that built up kind of rock wall that surrounds the palace. And what separates something like the Dragon Fortress from the Ninja theme that we saw is if you look at this set, right? And we called this out on the Ninja theme. Those buildings were very simple and not super detailed. This one is, you can turn it 360 and it's extremely detailed. And like most sets of the era, this one you can reconfigure it and turn it into kind of whatever building you want it to be. So they gave different examples of the building kind of done in different elements, very modular in that capacity.
I hate to say it, but I think the Amazon theme is the weakest. Do you feel the same?
I think they're definitely like. I mean, yeah, yeah.
I mean, we can't go without talking about Achu, the minifigure. Bless me, he is like used, I think, $70 or so. There for me the Amazon theme was kind of a throwback to like Lego Islanders from back in the day, that old theme. Like, hell, let's have Johnny Thunder go in there and explore there. But this Achu minifigure is definitely the highlight. He's got this giant kind of, I guess it's like Incan inspired
or like Aztec
headdress.
Inspired like headpiece. Yeah.
It looks more Incan to me, but I am no expert. But the thing that is really cool is his cape. I believe this was the first instance of a printed cape. So it's a red cape, and on the back of it, it's got like a minifigure kind of illuminated sun god type of head print with some kind of green and red kind of, I guess, like chevron-y type of accents. It's super cool. This is a minifigure that you constantly see in like people are like, oh, and here's my minifigure collection. Like this is the guy that people add to it.
Yeah, definitely very cool. He's got a spider in his hand, right? And it came in a very small set. This is set 5906, called Ruler of the Jungle. 24 pieces, including this minifigure. And there's like little feathers that are attached to the spear that he's holding, right? Like very much feels reminiscent of the Aztec warrior that we got in the CMF series to some extent, right? But this was sort of the original version of that. So
Yeah, I think he actually came in a lot of the sets, which is why I think he came in 3 sets total, which is why he's so
okay,
cheap still. Because this would be, you know, this would be the minifigure if he were just in like the one big set. But
yeah,
there's also these chrome gold like plate pieces that they used as kind of like the MacGuffin, I guess you could say, for the adventurers theme, and sorry, the jungle adventurers theme, and you could get them on like a little oh god, it, I've seen them before on like a unpopped out mold, like fresh fabricated from the
hmm
plant, but it was a sun disk is what they were called, and it's a chrome gold piece with kind of the minifigure hand bars on the side of it so they can hold it, and it's
hmm
about the
hmm
size of like the plate. And this was the
like the
the
treasure.
idol from the temple, right? So there was still a lot to love in the island theme. I mean, and this piece alone today is 10 $10 or so new, because it's a chrome piece. Even used, they're pretty expensive. So super cool
Yeah.
piece. Lot to love from this theme, in my opinion.
One of the things I wanted to call out before we get into kind of, variations on this theme today and what, could be, maybe modernized for the theme is I looking at this theme, right? You mentioned it very much feels like it's set in like the 30s, and I would agree, right? Like feels very much like 30s or 20s with the vehicles that we see in place. And I mean, they look like Ford Model A's and Ford Model T's for the kind of the trucks and the desert adventures. But the things that really
Uh-huh.
stand out for me in this theme are the airplanes. And I feel like whoever helped design this theme just loved, there was definitely an aviator or if you're a fan of aviation in this theme, in the designers, right? Because we had some really, really cool planes. The one that I think is just like the quintessential airplane is the Island Hopper from the Dino Island theme. And it looks like
Uh-huh.
kind of it's a, it's a seaplane, right? And it's got 2 engines, a high wing, and pontoons. And for me, it like looks like a Grumman Mallard, or kind of speaks to me like something like
I
that.
don't
And it
think it's
just
a duck.
it's a series of seaplanes that were very popular in the 20s and 30s, right?
Uh
That kind of harken back to kind of that era of exploration and opening things up, right? And you see them still on like travel posters today of like Hawaii or Pan Am posters or whatever, with like seaplanes in the background. And like that airplane to me really stands out. But looking through it, right, you go into like the Egyptian theme, and there's some really cool biplanes in there, planes that look like Newports, and stuff from World War I. And so again, right, like it sets this theme in such a specific time that you see emulated in so many other ways, right? Like you remember the
like in
uh
Indiana Jones.
well, Indiana Jones, or I was thinking like Tailspin. Do you remember that cartoon in Disney with like the animals
Yeah.
flying airplanes? Like, or even Archer had like kind of an island explorer theme in one of the kind of odd seasons where he's in the coma.
That's when I stopped watching,
And
yeah.
but it's very much like it has this like vibe, to kind of use a modern word here, but it very much has like the vibe that this series is sort of going for, right? Now this is
Mhm.
all done in 2000, so like it looks like a 2000s Lego set, but man, what a cool series. And just one that you can tell us there's like a lot of love in this series. So
I thought you were gonna say the Desert Expedition plane because it has the cool like classic World War II plane Jaws sticker. What I don't know if
mhm.
you're the aviation nerd. I don't know if that has a name, but you know the little mouth that they put on planes, like it's got that, but in sticker form.
Well, that's the one that very much I think to me kind of looks like, either like a French or an English biplane from World War II. Yeah, like a Newport or something. And so it just like even today still looks like a really cool biplane. And I saw a more modern kind of review of this set on YouTube. Somebody was buying these sets and going through them still. And there's the panels on the side of the airplane, and you actually can lower them. And inside is kind of like it's not great, right? Like this is a set from the 2000s, early 2000s, but they kind of have like a built-in engine compartment in there, and just some really fun building techniques for this series. So
It was a simpler time, but it was also it is also a little bit better than you remember in some ways, right? Like it's there's a lot to like here with these sets. And I do have a question for you, West. I mean, dude, dude, I'm like looking at the Scorpion's Palace and I'm like, this is why, dude, we can't do this anymore. Cause like, okay, if I'm ever in Bricks and minifigures and they got one of these things to use, like mostly complete, like watch out. Like, dude, Scorpion Palace. I'll put the photo on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. But like, there's an arch. It's a white arch piece. It's the classic 2x6x1 arch. And it's got just this Indian printing pattern on it. Like, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really colorful. Dare I say it's a pretty Lego piece. Like, this is awesome. This is, gosh, dude. Okay. I'm like, dang. All right. Well, I told myself I wasn't going to do this anymore, but I might have to go buy this one after. When I move, it'll be my housewarming gift. Cause like this
there
thing
you
is
go.
sweet. This is sweet. Just need one from each of the. I got the
Just a
Dino
taste,
Island one
Grinch.
already.
Just get a taste.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. So, but no, Wes, my question before I just was staring at that butte, I do actually have the B-Wing Baron if you want it. I will give that to you.
Biplane?
If I said B-Wing, didn't I? The bi-wing Baron.
That's okay.
Yeah, 5'9",
You also have the original
2'8".
B-Wing, so.
I also have that too, yeah. But yeah, that one's got your name on it if you want it. It's got Baron Von Baron in there, brother.
Oh, I might have to take you up on it. But what was your question?
My question, sir, was where else would you have liked to see Johnny Thunder go in his expeditions?
Oh, man. That is a great question.
My question is, what did you build this week? So I was keeping the bit going from earlier. Okay.
Yeah. That's a tough one because, thinking about it geographically, right? And we talked about this with Lego already. Lots of emphasis on like Northwestern Europe. And so we see something where he goes to Egypt. So you've kind of, and I'm painting with some broad brushes here, people, so please forgive me. But you've kind of gotten a little bit of a Mediterranean, Middle Eastern theme, right? Even arguably African to some extent. It's not perfect, I know, right? We have a jungle theme, so you're either saying something in like far Southeast Asia or Latin America, and then we have an Orient theme, and so you're seeing a lot more of Asia, both in the Indian subcontinent and then into kind of the main Chinese and Mongolian kind of sector of Asia. So they kind of hit the four corners of the world there, right? And then the dino theme is sort of ambiguous, kind of a stretch of the jungle theme to some extent. So that would be tough. I maybe something more Middle Eastern, like a or maybe something. Yeah, I
Like a
don't know. I would say
Persian.
variations. Yeah, Persian would be kind of an interesting one, right?
I would have said Australian, but now that we know
It just
he's
stays in his
Australian,
backyard.
that feels a little bit weird. But like, you could have a lot of the dark orange and the nougats could be kind of like that main color palette, like we saw with the tan in the Egypt, and you could have like an outback adventure, crocodiles, koalas, like that'd be pretty
Yeah.
badass.
Have we gotten
You
a Lego
mentioned that
koala?
no. And we would we would get it here because they were revolutionary with their animals back in the day. Like we'd get a cute
Yeah,
little
or kangaroo.
koala, dude. Yeah, dude. Wallaby. Um,
That would be cool.
you mentioned Africa, but Northern Africa and Central Africa are very different.
Yes.
So you could have more of a ancient Africa, like I'm talking about like Songhai, Mali type of influence, where it's still
That
a
would be
little
really
bit kind
cool.
of
Yeah.
north central. That would be interesting. I think a like oh god, ice age type of they did
Mm,
dinos. Like what if they did more of an ice age? And I guess they've kind of done that a little bit with like Arctic explorers, but I think you could have a lot of fun because of the time period, right? With Arctic
yeah.
explorers, it's always been recent. You got these giant, emologs with treads and all that, explorer bases and trains and what have you. Like, give me this old biplane and some a dude with one of those fluffy hats. I'm blanking on what they're called, but like that would be super cool, right? Lean in on the Yeti a little bit there again. So
Well, I mean, they released the Endurance, right? And the Endurance was only a few years. That expedition was only a few years
there you go.
in
Where's Johnny
time,
Thunder? He
a
should be
decade
in
or
the
two,
endurance set.
right? Like, so you could see like a 1920s or 30s Arctic and Antarctic expedition, or
Uh-huh.
right after, I'm blanking on the specific date, but I think it's right after World War II is when Mount Everest is first summited, right? So like you could kind of really lean into some of the Everest stuff. Like you said, we could get into like a little bit of the Siberian example, right? I think you could set something in like Congo, or explore like different, areas of Africa as well, with different tribal regions of Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa would be really cool. Really lean in on the animals too, in addition to kind of maybe some of the more indigenous populations that also existed there as well. So
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I think it's a good time to transition to this next question. Do you think it could be re-released today?
I'm gonna give a 10 out of 10. Absolutely, I think this theme could get re-released
Oh,
today.
snap.
I think there need to be some maybe modernization, a little bit of it, right?
Yes.
And
I mean,
maybe just
dude,
some.
like, okay, we can't say anything without like acknowledging the fact that there's literally a set. I'm trying to find the set number here. I've got it right in front of me. It's called um China Girl. It's set
Yeah,
3382. So
yeah,
that like that would need to change.
certainly.
Just throwing that out there. Like that would probably not fly today. It's literally just called China Girl.
Yeah, so like certainly some modernization, right? But I also think in this series and in this context, even in comparison to some other Lego themes that we've already talked about, I think there's a lot of reverence for the cultural influences that are sort of influencing this adventure theme. And while
Mhm.
maybe there could be some updating on how the culture is approached, right? And maybe there could be some ways to make it less like he's exploiting the culture as sort of an adventurer, right? And maybe you could kind of adjust the way, or the context for Johnny Thunder being there in the first place, right? Like I think there's something really special that could be sort of modernized, and much in the way that we talked about the Western theme or the castle theme, maybe expanding and revisiting sort of cultures that Lego has sort of traditionally not explored before. I think you could really do the same thing with Johnny Thunder in a really cool way. And but then still really lean into that kind of nostalgia factor of the 20s and 30s that that I think both us are really, excited about.
As long as we get the Expedition balloon remade and it's not pieces, it's gotta be like
You think it's got to be molded?
the
One
single.
molded
It's
piece?
gotta be the mold, dude. It's gotta, and you gotta be able to take off the back of it and
Put
put
all
all
the
the pieces on
inside
the
of it.
inside. And it's got to have the peeling stickers, that you randomly place really terribly because it's a ginormous piece and the stickers are this big, and you're supposed to put stickers on this essentially water bottle and like line it up well, which as a 5-year-old is terrible.
Do you think
terrible.
that could be one of the largest single Lego pieces ever made?
Certainly. It also depends on what you classify as a Lego piece. If anything Lego has produced and sold, I believe it was in Adventures. I think
There's a sword.
Desert Expedition. Well, yeah, I mean, there's like stuff like that. But if we're talking about like more of the plastic, I think it was Desert Expedition. 28791. Sorry, 2879. That came with a like mummy sarcophagus, like bottle
Like case
thing. Like,
okay,
yeah, like a case. So, I mean, if the blimp counts, I think that counts.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Anyways, what a crazy era.
I think I just want to leave us with this. Listeners, West and I were preparing for this episode as we always do. We are working on our notes. We came into the podcast to record, and we sat down, and West just goes, "Man, this theme is awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun. It's goated. It's Johnny Thunder, dude. It really is. It's great." All right. So I think that concludes our conversation on Adventures West. Why don't we head over to some brick mail?
Brick mail.
Take us away with the first one.
All right. So our first brick mail comes from Jeff, who writes, "Hi guys, I love your podcast. During episode 67, you asked whether any of your listeners are Harry Potter Lego fans, so I wanted to let you know that I am one such listener. I also wanted to note that I think you misunderstood the news about the Harry Potter gift with purchase. Unless something has changed since Lego's email announcement, the gift with purchase is a Hogsmeade metal ornament, not a set. So it fits the category you were describing of items that augment or complement the set you're purchasing. The room of requirement is a gift with purchase for spending $130 on Harry Potter sets."
We misread that was
Jeff,
on me. I collected that
thank you.
news. Good call out. Don't ever do it again.
No, I'm kidding. He said you asked for listener feedback on whether the gift with purchases actually influence us to make purchases we otherwise wouldn't make, and also how collectors of a series feel about certain items only becoming available as a gift with purchase. I'm personally not purchasing the current Hogwarts series because I've got a pretty extensive collection from the 2 prior Hogwarts series, but I'd be a little upset if I were a completist who had already purchased the Castle series sets when they came out and now need to make an extra purchase in order to get the full series of sets. But if I were holding off on purchasing some of the other Castle sets for whatever reason, this would be a good inducement to move up the purchase. Even though I'm not collecting the entirety of the current Hogwarts series, I do think this is a cool little set that I can incorporate into my existing build. In this case, Lego is successfully inducing a larger purchase by offering up the gift with purchase. I wasn't previously planning on purchasing much Harry Potter stuff right now, although I would probably have tried to buy the Advent calendar at some point. Now, however, I'm planning to buy the Advent calendar immediately upon release and buy a few other small sets that I find interesting to add up to 130 so that I can end up with the Room of Requirements set. I also to stack on the small Quidditch lessons polybag, which is a gift with purchase with $40 of Harry Potter purchases. Jeff. Well, so Jeff, actually, first off, like Grinch mentioned, thank you for setting us straight on the news of the room requirements. And I have seen that gold sign. And so I think I was also sort of thinking something similar too of like, anyways, appreciate you setting us straight. right? And
Yeah, no,
I actually
thank you
have
for
been
correcting the record. My fault on that.
no, not a problem, right? I mean, hey, that's what we're here for. I did rewatch the fifth movie just this weekend, and I was reminded of actually the intersection of Hogsmeade and the Room of Requirement, and so I was like, oh, actually, this kind of makes a lot of sense if it's in the context of the Order of the Phoenix movie. I don't think it was necessarily explicitly stated. So, although I think the Hogsmeade series is kind of from that series of sets. So, because certainly the Harry Potter figure has got the full adult legs versus the halfway or the small legs, right? So you know places us later on in the Harry Potter timeline. But yeah, I again appreciate you kind of speaking to that. So I think you bring up a really interesting anecdote of how you are exploiting or those price levels for those additional sets. So
All right, so up next on our brick mail, we have our number one fans from the Philippines. Hi, Grinch and West. Listening to your previous podcast on your top 5 Lego sets, I was wondering, have you managed to get a hold of the Imperial flagship yet? I think it would look amazing displayed alongside the new Jack Sparrow's pirate ship, since it could serve as the interceptor. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your top 5 pirate ship sets of all time? I did not. More power to you both. Your number one fans from the Philippines, Chico and Andres. Well, thank you very much for writing in. I did not prep my top 5 necessarily, so this is off the cuff. I think I didn't say it during the news, but I'm really happy with this Black Pearl because when looking at all of the Pirates of the Caribbean sets, you commonly want to be like the Black Pearl's got to be the best set, right? But honestly, it's the second best ship in my opinion now. I think the Silent Mary is better. And so it's nice to get a set like a Black Pearl that's really good. It really is because I think it can rightfully, this new one can rightfully take that spot. So is it a top 5 pirate ship? Yes, probably number 4, number 3. Imperial flagship's definitely up there. Pirates of Barracuda Bay is up there. And then I'd say the Silent Mary is probably right there at like number 5. And it's not a pirate ship, but like I really like the Endurance. They just haven't done anything like that before, and I love it. But if we had to choose another pirates, I'd say probably Black Sea Barracuda because it's just a classic. So I say that's the list off the cuff, without going through any sets to remind myself of what else was out there. So hopefully it makes the cut for you.
I think we can all agree, though, that more of these sailing warships in Lego is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's in the form of Pirates
certainly
of the Caribbean,
not a bad thing,
or in the form of updated Lego Pirates themes, right? Like I think we're all just huge fans of what Lego's been putting out, and I know we want more. So
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again for writing in. Glad that we have some fans in the Philippines. That's really exciting. And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to the show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.